All right, another example. This time we have print. Let's take a look at what's going on here. The precondition says n has to be greater than or equal to 0. So obviously we're not going to overflow the stack again. We're going to use numbers that are reachable. N int, it's 4 bytes. Look carefully here though. For all the ones before, there was a return type. This is now void. So we are printing. We are not returning a value. We are printing a value. I want to look further down into the main method and check something out. What I'm seeing here is there is a error here. And this is a very common AP exam question. See, print ln expects this method to return a value so you can print it, but it's not returning a value, it's void. So you can't print the print. Okay, so this is a mistake because if it's already printing and not returning a value, you should not be wrapping this inside of a print call. Instead, what you should do is simply print. The example I'm going to run here is print 5. But let's take a look at the recursion. Again, recursion, very little code, but the stack, have to figure it out. All right, so here's what we have. If n is greater than or equal to 0, perform the recursive step. Look at this. The if statement now is doing the recursion. Before it was doing the base case. So now it's doing the recursion. So this would be one of those recursion that is happening before, right? Remember the ones that were happening at the end? Those were tail. This is head. But the recursive call is before what you're trying to do. So what happens here? Let's talk about the print and versus the push. This is a big topic. If you print before you push, it's going to print in order. If you push, like we have here, before you print, it'll go reverse. Let me say that again. Right now, what we have here is the push. The call to the method itself happens up here. So we don't get to this. So what happens to this? It's waiting on the stack. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let's run it with print 5. P5 happens, right? We call the method to P5. We're going to do it down here and see it happen. P5 will come in. But because it's greater than or equal to 0, it's going to again hit P4. Because 5 minus 1 is 4. Comes back, calls P4. Also true. Comes back, calls P3, then P2, then P1. See, every time it hits here, this recursive call, it comes back. But we never get to this. So this is where the stack and what's happening actually should be in your mind. Remember, I drawing it across now. I'm purposely changing this because this is on the bottom and this is on the top. So if you kind of take this whole thing and twist it around so that this is on the bottom, it's on the top, like we're stacking books. Because the 5 is on the bottom, it's going to print last. So therefore, it's going to go backwards. Now, let me show you what happens here, because sometimes people make mistakes right here. The AP exam does this a lot, so you got to be careful. When does the base case? Because right now, we don't see a base case per se, because normally the base case is with the if statement. When does this trigger a base case? When this is false. Let that one sink in. I know before, every single one, the base case was obvious, right? It was like, if you get to this, stop. But we don't really have that here. What we have here is when this is false, don't push anymore. So it's literally saying when we get to some number that makes this false, which the first one, since we're going by 1, is going to be -1. So a lot of people make the mistake and think this ends at 0. It doesn't. It ends at -1 because when it hits -1, it does not run this print again. And then it goes to start printing. Here's the key though. Since all these prints are waiting, so this is on the bottom, right? So print 5, a 5 is waiting to be printed. This is also waiting to be printed. This is also waiting. Every single one of these stacked up on the book, like books, I should say. They're all stacked up on each other. Then we get to the base case. When we hit -1, we don't push anymore. Now all those prints that were waiting, so system.out print -1 and a space, system.out print 0 and a space, 1 and a space, they're all waiting. They get popped off the stack in the reverse order. So the -1 is going to print first, then the 0, then the 1, then the 2, the 3, the 4, and the 5 is going to print last. So let me reiterate this. When the push is before the print, we're talking backwards. When the print is before the push, we're going to go forwards. Let's run that. Let's verify the stack. -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, we called P5, but the 5 prints last. So what we have here is what I call, I put a little note, push before print. That's it.